man. Let him do it.
That was the President of the United States responding to a question about the European Union banning the sale of food products in Europe because of the tariffs that we're going to place around the world. That's all right. I don't mind. Let them do it. The longer we as rural people allow the party that defends the wealthy and the oligarchy that's growing in this country make agricultural and rural policy, the longer we're going to suffer. History has a way of repeating itself in rural America, and rural America can either suffer the consequences of that repetition or unite as the force that drives the much needed change in our rural way of thinking. Hi everybody, my name's Will. This is the Back 40, and let's talk about it. In 1890s Kansas, farmers were working harder than they had ever worked before, and they were producing record amounts of food to feed the people of America. There was only one problem. They weren't seeing the financial benefits of all that hard work, and they were angry. Into this volatile situation stepped Mary Elizabeth Lease. Now, Mary was famous at the time for speaking out about women's rights, the suffrage movement, and labor unions. Well, Mary took up the cause of Kansas farmers and stumped for the Kansas People's Party. It was the beginning of the populist movement in rural America. And brother, I'm here to tell you, those farmers raised 3 different kinds of hell. Now listen up, rural America, and let me know if any of this sounds familiar. The farmer revolt in the populist area was a result of several factors, including tariffs that drove up the prices of the inputs farmers needed and led to massive overproduction as the demand for agricultural products plummeted. Sound familiar? President Trump's tariffs have raised the price of inputs, and he's only getting started. Not only are the Chinese continuing to slow the purchasing of American agricultural products, they're placing their own tariffs on American products as well. And as these giant markets for our farm products disappear, Brazil and Argentina are stepping in to fill the void. And what does our president say? What do our Republican elected officials say? Farmers will just find new ways to sell their products. This is unbelievable. I'm still waiting on these nitwits in the Republican Party who are still nursing the government teat to tell me how you replace the purchasing power of 1.4 billion Chinese bellies with the bellies of 340 million Americans. Rural America, we've been lied to. We've been asked to believe that our ancestors were timid souls who went to church on Sunday and played the government game like meek little school children the rest of the week. We've been led to believe that culture wars should occupy our time while farms and ranches close. Wall Street ag prospers. Money is stolen from the schools of rural America to pay for private schools for the wealthy, and while our rural hospitals and healthcare clinics shuttered their doors due to Medicaid cuts. There's no period in the history of this great country that our farming mothers and fathers represented and fought for the oligarchs that work every day to make them tenant farmers on their own farms. Our ancestors organized after church on Sunday. They organized into groups similar to the early labor unions. You need to read about groups like the Grangers in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Illinois and Iowa, like the flowery names, the Patrons of Husbandry, forced the passage of legislation that was good for American farmers and ranchers. The Farmers Alliance took shape out of the Grange movement, and 3 national groups formed an alliance that included 1.5 million white farmers who joined arms with 1 million black farmers to fight for farmers' rights. And they weren't just a bunch of swinging Johnsons. 250,000 women joined the movement as well. And they all advocated for women's suffrage because they knew that white male voices, combined with black voices, combined with the voices of our mothers and sisters, would be heard all the way to the halls of Washington, D.C. Our history is not a history of submission to the wealthy on Wall Street who want to corporatize our very way of life, but rather a proud history of populism that fought against the vested money interests, the tariff lovers, and those who wanted to make farmers serfs on their own farms. So the next time a politician tells you that making the rich richer, cutting taxes on those who make their living off the backs of American rural workers, and making the focus of the governance the destruction of our government and the marginalized people of this nation, you tell them to go to hell. It's time to step up and fight the forces that are working to corporatize rural America while cutting the services our tax funds our tax funds go to keep our communities healthy and safe. That's the rural history of America. And that's the real history of America. So you can continue to put your trust in a man who's destroying the markets that we farmers and ranchers sell our products to, and cares nothing more about doing that than saying, okay, let them do it. You can continue to place your faith in a man that is cutting the funding for rural schools while he's asking you to let him take that money and put it into voucher programs that help the rich send their kids to school in the cities. You can continue to support a president that is taking money out of our rural hospitals and healthcare facilities, where we run the risk of over 700 of them closing over the next 2 years. Or you can do what I've been asking you to do all along. Don't admit that you were wrong. Just admit that you were lied to. Admit that he lied to you. Admit that they lied to you. And then join us. Join us here on the Back 40 every day to stand up against the policies that are harming rural America. Send us an email to the back40family@gmail.com, all spelled out, and let us know that you want to be involved.